morning, YouTubers. I decided to do this old school. This is the way I did my first videos that I put up here on YouTube. Oh, going on 7 years ago when I first started getting into this. Now, I'm going to be quoting from the Bible, so those of you who aren't interested in that, you may just avoid listening to this. It's important to me, as I first started doing this years ago. The reason I use the Bible is not because I believe every word in the Bible is true. The reason I use the Bible is that in order to contradict the utter nonsense that 99% of Christians believe in, you have to use the very words of their Bible in order to illustrate a point. I thought when I first started all those years ago that if I used the Bible to illustrate my point and make it very clear and concise and present a reasonable argument, that the Christians at the very least would see my point. Well, that's not the way Christians are. I found that out real quick, that it doesn't matter how salient your points are. If they go against their indoctrination, they will call you pure evil. So I'm going to be using the Bible. I'll be reading it off of the screen here. Many of you may not be aware of the fact that I was a preacher, a Sabbatarian preacher, for 4 years. So this is not as though these things are unknown to me. I thought it was important for me to do this video about the doctrine of grace. Now, I've talked about the doctrine of grace before, but I don't know that I have devoted one entire video just to this doctrine, and how the Bible itself contradicts what Christians say about the doctrine of grace. The doctrine of grace is the one thing about the Christian church that makes it so terribly evil. And I say evil because grace justifies every evil act that Christians do. Well, is it biblical? You see, that should be the important, salient point to a Christian. Is it biblical? Well, I'm going to demonstrate today that in fact it is not. First of all, if I am looking for doctrine as a Christian, if I am looking for something that is my dogma, something that structures my life, then I would think that the primary source would be from the Christ himself. So let's start with that. Let's start with what Christ said in regards to whether people are judged according to their works. That's really what it boils down to. Christians today, many of them, most of them, will tell you that all you have to do is believe in a story that you're read in Sunday school, and that you're going to go to heaven, whatever heaven is, really. They don't clarify, but that's another video. Let's start with Matthew chapter 7. Start with verse 16. Ye shall know them by their fruits. Do men gather grapes of thorns, or figs of thistles? Even so, every good tree bringeth forth good fruit, but a corrupt tree bringeth forth evil fruit. A good tree cannot bring forth evil fruit, neither can a corrupt tree bring forth good fruit. Every tree that bringeth not forth good fruit is hewn down, and cast into the fire. Wherefore by the fruits ye shall know them. Not every one that says to me, Lord, Lord, shall enter into the kingdom of heaven, but he that doeth the will of my Father which is in heaven. Many will say to me on that day, Lord, Lord, have we not prophesied in thy name? And in thy name have cast out devils, and in thy name done many wonderful works. And then I will profess unto them, I never knew you, depart from me, ye that work iniquity. So right here, it's clear that Christians, just because you believe in a story, doesn't mean that you're going to go to heaven. Look, I don't even know what heaven is, but you believe in it. You seem to be, centered on going to heaven and not going to hell. So it says right here, many will say to me on that day, Lord, Lord, have we not prophesied in thy name, etc. Well, that would describe who? That's not describing unbelievers. It's describing believers. So not everyone who believes the story is going to reap this reward. Let's go to Matthew chapter 25 and the parable of the sheep and the goats. Matthew 25, starting with verse 31. When the Son of Man shall come into his glory, and all the holy angels with him, then shall he sit upon the throne of his glory. And before him shall be gathered all nations, and he shall separate them one from another, as a shepherd divideth his sheep from the goats. And he shall set the sheep on his right hand, but the goats on his left. Then shall the king say unto his right hand, Come, ye blessed of my Father, inherit the kingdom prepared for you from the foundation of the world. For I was hungered, and ye gave me meat. I was thirsty, and ye gave me drink. I was a stranger, and ye took me in. Naked, and ye clothed me. I was sick, and ye visited me. I was in prison, and ye came unto me. Then shall the righteous answer him, saying, Lord, when saw we thee unhungered, and fed thee, or thirsty, and gave thee drink? This is all King James Version, by the way. When saw we thee a stranger, and took thee in, or naked, and clothed thee? And when saw we thee sick, or in prison, and came unto thee? And the king shall answer and say unto them, Verily I say unto you, inasmuch as ye done it unto one of the least of these my brethren, you have done it unto me. Then he shall say to them on the left hand, Depart from me, ye cursed, into the everlasting fire, prepared for the devil and his angels. For I was hungered, and ye gave me no meat. I was thirsty, and ye gave me no drink. I was a stranger, and ye took me not in. Naked, and ye clothed me not. Sick, and in prison, and ye visited me not. Then shall they also answer him, saying, Lord, when saw we thee unhungered, or athirst, or a stranger, or naked, or sick, or in prison, and did not minister unto thee? Then shall he answer them, saying, Verily I say unto you, inasmuch as ye did it not to the least of these, ye did it not to me. And these shall go away to everlasting punishment, but the righteous into life eternal. These people are judged by their works. It's quite clear. And when I say it's evil that this doctrine of grace is prevalent in the church, I mean evil. Let's look at a couple of verses in the writings of Paul. Now, I have done a video about how Christianity is a cult, and that's due to Paul's writings. But even Paul speaks for people being judged by their works. Now let's look at 2 Corinthians 5:10. For we must all appear before the judgment seat of Christ, that every one may receive the things done in his body according to that he hath done, whether it be good or bad. So you will be judged for whether you did good or bad. Revelation chapter 20, verse 12. And I saw the dead, small and great, stand before God, and the books were opened, and another book was opened, which is the book of life, and the dead were judged out of those things which were written in the books, according to their works. I think it's important to stress, there's other verses, but I believe that's enough. And I think it's important to stress that what the Christian church is today is a group of people who believe that their belief is what is their salvation. Their salvation is in believing in a story that the Christ was resurrected on this day, Easter Sunday, a day and a half after Good Friday. He supposedly resurrected, even though he said he would be dead for 3 days. This is all goes back to the whore of Babylon, that is the Roman Catholic Church. It all goes back to her. And it all stems from this pure, unadulterated evil that has poisoned the land for the past 1700 years. And I'm telling you, by the approach that the Pope is taking, and by the way people are feeling, and the way that that things are turning, it should be obvious to anyone that this is the end of the age. Now, when I say this is the end of the age, this is the end of your age, Christians, Muslims, Jews, all of you. The Abrahamic faiths are not going to survive this, and they shouldn't. And if you want to look at that as a judgment from God, then that's just fine with me. It's a judgment from somewhere, and it's going to happen. And the core of the Christian faith, that is the doctrine of grace, is the reason why. Because you deserve to be destroyed. You don't deserve to continue to exist. This is happening. And the sooner you come to that conclusion, the better off you will be. Thank you. You all have a wonderful Ishtar Sunday.